When we were young, the disco was new for us. So I went to the disco and I did the things that you did at the disco. We were initially good Christian boys. So you didn't go to the disco and mingle with girls in such a loose way, but we did. And you took intoxicants and things of that nature. So I liked it. And I had so much fun. And then I go home and I tell my older brother, who's 7 years older than me, and he said that I was becoming a bonehead, you know? And so he said, listen, I want you to be ready Sunday. I'm going to take you with me to the Krishna temple. I said, the Krishna temple? I thought that was the craziest thing. This is so whack, you know? But my brother was reading different philosophical books and things, and he was a construction guy, but he also was drawn towards, philosophy and philosophical pursuits of life. And so when I went to the temple, as I said, I went for atonement, and I wore a suit and tie and everything, and I heard them take this stuff off. I got that tie off, the jacket off, and I dived right into the kirtan like the guys coming up the street. Just went straight for it. So then it was over, and we got down to do prayers, and they asked me what I thought. And my response was, I said it was better than the club, and I didn't drop anything. So, and then the guy stuck his hand into his plate. They had plates like that, and he stuck his wet, greasy hand into the plate. And you'd eat with your hands. And he says, Halava, but to give me some food. I said, oh my God. I thought, there's no way I'm going to take that, And something inside, this is the first experience, spirit, something inside of me said, take it. So I threw it in my mouth. It wasn't me, because I didn't want to take it. And I said, oh, it's good. It's good. It was halava. And then I realized that was it. I loved the music, and the food was over the top, because I was vegetarian and I was eating all side things. I was vegetarian since maybe 70 or after high school. So I was vegetarian early, and it was hard, but I didn't like meat. So I was sitting with my mother, and we were watching the news, and it talked about vegetarianism on the rise in America. I said, that's it, mother. I said, I'll be a vegetarian. And my mother's response was, you weigh 140 pounds. You're 6 feet tall. You're going to die. I said, that's okay. I won't die. Don't give me anything with meat, any meat around me. And that was it. Wow. That's before Krishna consciousness ever came.
Yeah. What exactly is halava?
Halava, it's farina, butter, sugar. And if you're lucky, you got raisins or strawberries, whatever. But this was plain halava. It's an Indian sweet. I still love halava. And that 142 pounds, I'm pushing it, okay? My mother would be so happy to see me so fat,
Right.
So fast forwarding, after several years, I met the leader, Prabhupada, of the Krishna consciousness movement in 1975. I met him, and I walked him up to the gate and into the temple, and then I met him again in 1976. And in 1975, I was curious about his origin. As my mother said, I invited my mother to come hear the lecture at the art museum when we had this street festival. And I said, what do you think? My mother said, well, in my life, I only know Jesus Christ. She said, but I think your Srila Prabhupada is a very humble, holy man. She said, I liked him. So, so two of her sons became Hare Krishnas.
Wow.
My older brother first. So then it was hard for me, because I had a very active lifestyle in the wrong direction. It appeared that my lifestyle was nice. I appeared to be a gentleman, but I had bad habits on the weekends, not during the week. On the weekends, we would smoke and we do things of that nature. And you you wanted to enjoy with girls loosely. And, you know, today that's nothing. But in any religious circle, whether you're Christian or Muslim, Hindu, you know that your actions are improper. So I knew my actions were improper. That's one thing. And I was searching. I was looking for something, for some, but I was going on with my lifestyle, you know. And so what had happened when my brother asked me to read the Gita in its entirety, and then I didn't do anything. I didn't smoke or hang out with the girls or anything, and I just read the book through. And my conviction, when my buddy asked me, they're waiting for me. He said, "What do you think about this Bhagavad Gita?" I said, "I think this Krishna is definitely God." He said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I also think this is what I was looking for all my life."
Right.
He says, "Yeah, really?" I said, "But it came too late." I says, "In the spiritual world, there's no drugs, sex, and rock and roll. So let's go light them up." I shut the book, and I did. So capricious, so whimsical, you know, but I did. And then we went out having fun, and I thought after the weekend, I said, "That was a good book." I said, I want to read that book more. And where I'd read the Tao, you know, like Tao, the Tao Chinese philosophy, and the flow was good, but it left me wanting. I could, because I couldn't see the personal aspects of the Supreme. The Lord was in nature, so it wasn't enough for me. But the Gita had hit home for me. I found something. And I remember, and I used to write lyrics, and I remember one Tony Bennett song really helped me in the end of my journey. It says, "For the good life, full of fun seems to be the ideal. The good life lets you hide all the sadness you feel. You won't really fall in love because you can't take the chance. So please be honest with yourself. Don't try to fake romance. It's the good life to be free and explore the unknown, like the heartaches when you find you must face them alone." And then I thought this was God's voice.
Wow.
"Please remember, I still want you. And in case you wonder why, well, just wake up. Kiss the good life goodbye." And that was a turning point for me. Because when I came home that night, I realized how empty I felt. You know, that you won't really fall in love because couldn't give your heart. And and I thought the so-called good life that we were raised to go for was an illusion. I thought we'd been had, you know, that yeah, I just thought and I get intoxicated. And I tell my buddies, we're getting dressed, we're going to places. I said, if Russia invaded us tonight, who cares about this silk shirt that I don't work so hard for, or the silk pants, or the Gucci shoes? I said, I think I think we're just going the wrong way. I said, we're being hacked, we're being exploited. He said, listen, you know, if you don't want to have a good time, you know, that's you. But you can at least keep that stuff to yourself. They would tell me like that, you know?
Right.
And then we go on living our lives. And so there was a vacuum. So I kept reading the Gita, and I would put it in my earth shoe bag, and I would just keep it with me all the time. And then one day, from the disco, I was out having fun, and people would always take me places, you know. And I wake up and I'm like, you don't know anybody here. I said, something bad is going to happen to you one of these times. And I said, so first of all, you don't need drugs. Drugs are out. You'll never take drugs again. I said, and right now you shouldn't mess with girls so much because they get you in so much trouble. I said, you should go home and think about what you're going to do with your life. Maybe about 25, 26, something, 20. And I felt so old.
So wise. Yeah.
I felt really old. I did, you know? And and I never took anything again.
Wow.
I never took anything. There was an inquisitiveness earlier. Now there was a challenge. How to traverse the path and live the life that I've come to understand that I want. Fast forward, I'm a Hare Krishna. I'm a younger man, and I'm just doing the things the monks do. My hair is shaved. I don't have any hair. You know, I'm studying all the time, and I'm liking it. Eventually, they get me to go to the airport, distribute Bhagavad Gita's, and I like the Gita, so I like it.
Mhm.
I'm meeting the same businessmen I had to work with before, so I'm not so intimidated by their hard veneer. Excuse me, sir. Welcome to Philly International. I like that tie. You know, and so I'm having fun. And I did that for like 5 or 6 years. And then I did other things in business. And they asked me about a restaurant that I think was a good idea. I said, yes, down at 5th and South.
Mhm.
And we went down there in 85. I'm just doing preaching, like celibate monk. And it gets the restaurants ready. And they said, what about getting the place upstairs for a preaching center? I said, excellent, get it. And South Street then was really hot at the other end. So we did it. And then now I'm just traveling all the time. Boston, Atlanta, I'm going all over the place. And then the director says, okay, you have to come back and run the center. I says,
Wow.
no, I don't want to. I said, I'm having a great time. He says, no, he says, you need to do that. I said, he said, you promised. I said, I didn't know I promised. I said, I just was, you know, telling you different ways that it could be done, that your goal could be obtained. But that's it. This guy's helped me too much. I said, okay, I'll come back. So I came back to do the center there. And in a month or so, they needed help in the restaurant. So they asked me, could I work the register? I said, sure. And then the director asked me, could I run a restaurant? I said, I've never even worked in a restaurant.
Wow.
He said, could you do it? I said, of course I can. I said, okay. So then I have to run a restaurant. And they split. I'm in there for 2 months. Now I have to learn restaurant business. And but the good thing was I was a party boy. So I'd been to so many upscale restaurants. And because I was vegetarian, I knew that you could eat vegetarian on all different levels. You know, so we got used to, there used to be a Stouffer's on the 41st floor of the Center Square building there, 15th and Market.
Okay.
And I'd have lunch up there. And I told the chef, I said, listen, I'm vegetarian. Make me something nice. And whenever I go to New York, Manhattan, Studio 54, so we got to go to different places, but you go to the restaurants and everybody's eating. So I knew all different types of vegetarian cuisine on all different calibers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did it, cleaned the place up, and it worked.
Wow.
And then you were in the restaurant business for how long?
I retired in 2019.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow. And was it just the one restaurant you were running?
Excuse me?
Was it just the one restaurant you were running?
I've done many restaurants.
Really?
My restaurant was on the corner there, the corner of Broad and South.
Okay.
I was downstairs here. On the second floor, I did full service dining.
Wow.
I had a little window down at 15th and South. I bought a place down there, and that was Govinda's Gourmet to Go. So Govinda's was the restaurant, Govinda's Gourmet Vegetarian. Then Govinda's Gourmet to Go. I just had fun.
Wow.
Doing all different types. We started doing a buffet. I remember Jim Quinn, who was a writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer. He came in one day, he was there. I said, oh. He said, listen, I'm Jim Quinn, I'm from the Inquirer. I said, oh no. That's the first time I'm in the first restaurant at 529 South Street. And he said, don't worry. He says, the food is amazing. And he wrote such an incredible article. But he said, my question is, I eat here, I've been eating here every day consecutively. I don't see how you can sell food of this quality for $5.49 all you can eat.
Wow.
He said, I don't see how you make a profit. I said, oh, I don't think about making a profit. I said, I get donations to do what I do anyway. I said, I get money donated to do things, to pay the bills and everything. I said, so I just want people to have vegetarian food. He said, you're going to lose your shirt.
He thought for sure you were going out of business.
All right. Wow.
And by the end of the year, I pretty much was losing my shirt. And and I hired this one guy, David Bay, who became a good friend of mine. And I said, I said, I don't think anybody would steal. I said, but it seems that we do a lot of business. I can't understand why there's not sufficient money. I said, could you check? He said, yeah. And so then after a few days, he says, I've been researching what you told me. So I found out what the problem is. I said, really? He said, unfortunately, the problem is you. He says, people come in and you get excited and you say, no, go eat, just eat. He said, but today I saw you give away 27 plates of food. You did 27 buffets for free. He said, you're the problem.
So it was kind of difficult for you to balance having a good heart, being charitable, and being nice to people,
Yeah.
and doing what's good for the business.
I didn't think like that. I had done business before, but I'm just complete monk mode, just
right, yeah.
And just giving and giving.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Being nice, yeah.
And then I said, okay, I have to learn this business. So I had to turn everything over, and I started going to the suppliers and everything. Instead of having everything delivered, I had to find out what the cost was, what we were losing or saving by having the deliveries, portion control. But I like people to have a lot, so I didn't want to cut down portion and pricing. And then I realized, okay, after 6 years, I said, I'm done with this. I had fun and got good articles written. Then I came here. And this place, you have to realize, I came to this place in '88. This was the Hare Krishna Food for Life. It was a men's homeless shelter.
Okay, so this place that we're in right now is a men's homeless shelter.
Yeah.
In 1988.
Yeah. Earlier than that. We closed it in '88. I have a picture of Mayor Good, cutting the ribbon, for the inauguration of the Food for Life here. Okay. I had nothing to do with it. But then the building was stuck. We were stuck with the building, and they were going to sell it. So I'm traveling, and I tell the same director, I said, don't sell the building. I said, South Street will change, because we were always at the other end. It'll change. I said, you just have to keep it. He says, well, there's too much of a push to get rid of it. We're not using it. We have another place at North Broad. And he said, so if you want to keep it, you'll have to come save it yourself. And eventually I opened a restaurant here. I opened the Govindas downstairs. And then there was a Govindas on the corner. I rented the corner spot for 15 years.
Can you tell us how you came up with the name Bhakti Garden and what does it mean?
Bhakti Garden, interesting. One of my senior friends, had written an article about the Bhakti Garden. And I was so done about his article. He was so on, And so the Bhakti Garden is really about planting seeds of devotion within the garden of your heart, and the nurturing, just like in the garden, you have to fence that young creeper, that young plant, so it's not taken on by other things or weeds and other things. You have to make sure you're uprooting the weeds. So in the Bhakti Garden, the seed of devotion is implanted by your spiritual teacher, but the watering process is hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, all these 9 processes of bhakti. So these processes enable the creeper to grow and become strong. But you have to watch out for the weeds. And the weeds are anartas, are fences. And you have to be careful not to commit offenses, not to even when you're doing acts that are not sinful, but they can be very offensive. It's considered like a mad elephant offense, that a mad elephant can go in the garden and just wipe out the whole garden. He's just crazy. He's running all over. So the offenses do the same thing to your devotional creeper. So you have to. So I thought this is a place where I want everyone to come, and they were coming here for food and lectures. I said, but I'm planting seeds of devotion, and we're watering them, and we're nurturing. And so that's why I changed to the Bhakti Garden. I became the analogy and the explanation, it fit for me.
So you're running all these businesses. How do you find time to devote yourself to all of these and give all of your attention to these businesses?
It's one business.
One business.
I'm a servant of God.
Wow.
The hats change. When you get up, I remember when I was at the mall selling, I would open malls. This is before the restaurant. I was open malls around the country. And I sometimes have to wear expensive suits, you know, and good ties. I knew those things when I was a younger man. But underneath, I was dressed as a monk. I would just have cloth tied around underneath me. So when I got up in the morning, I would get up early in the morning and I would just begin to do my prayers, take my shower and do my prayers. And then when I walked out the door, you thought I was a businessman and I'm doing business. Once you develop a certain mindset, that's why the spiritual awakening is so important. Once you incorporate that lifestyle, that new lifestyle, uh, into the persona of a person who's been directed in a different way. You understand? You know that I was raised to be a different man, but it took a while, and I kept my saying was always, "I'm not that dude." But what happens is your thoughts change, and your actions change, and your actions become habits. Your habits begin to mold your character, and your character defines who you are, what your destination is. So whether you are doing business, you have to remain of the same character, and that's how I do it.
You've been open since 1988. What sets this place apart from any other place in Philadelphia?
Um, the Bhakti Garden is a place where people come for spiritual experiences. Generally, it's first you come, you hear the kirtan. We invite you to the Friday kirtan, or for so many years, a Wednesday evening kirtan and lecture on Bhagavad Gita. And so many students come and things like that, and people come, and everything's free. You chant, you meet other people, and I think the secret ingredient is love. Just like I used to tell the people when they had me cooking food, they said, "Harvey, what is your special ingredient?" I said, "Oh, it's love.
Love.
It's love." Because we're looking for love. All of us are looking for love, but we look for it oftentimes in the wrong places, and we have a, a different idea of what love is.
Right.
But real love means that it's, first of all, love is for God. And when love is for God, it extends to his servants, to his sons and daughters, not just the good ones. It doesn't matter. You have to care. You have to care about them. And if you care, you don't handle everyone the same. I had to learn that too.
Right.
But your intention has to always be for the betterment of that individual.
Right.
And if I just offer my lifestyle, and that's me. That might not be what you're looking for. There may be something that you can take away, and maybe there's nothing that you can take away. At least you met a guy that was a little nice to you and wish you well.
Right.
And just talk about people from other walks of life. I mean, it's a Christian society. And then I grew up, so many of my friends became Muslim afterwards. And so much of my family, which was Christian, is Muslim, So what is my feeling? These are servants of God. So to the extent that a person accepts that there's a supreme and that you begin to try to work in that way, even if your attempts are mixed and not right, it's not me. I'm not in charge of that. That's your relationship being awakened with the supreme. If a person never wants to take my lifestyle, if I can encourage him to be a better Christian, a better Muslim, then my work was done.
Wow.
So it's,
I think like you, a lot of entrepreneurs struggle to balance the art side and the expression and the creativity side of their vision and what they want to do, and also be practical, pragmatic, and make good business decisions. paying the bills, serving the right portion size, charging the right price. How did you balance, you know, your vision and your artistry side of things with the practical, pragmatic business side of things? How do you strike that balance?
You have to sit down and really look at it from a business perspective. And then instead of doing anything yourself, put people in place that can help you. People that can help you stay on the straight and narrow. That is very important. If you're capricious like me, you really need other people doing things. I think that I was very, very fortunate that God took care of me. My mother gave me all kinds of benedictions. She said, son, God takes care of fools and babies. Do not be worried. You will always be protected. So,
Understood. So really collaboration was the key. So put people in places.
oh, you have to.
who
You have
can
to. You have
help
to. You have to organize. You have to begin to remove. You need to become more removed, because if you don't, the same mistakes will happen again and again. And there was one man that I met in my journey. His name was Barney. He's a staple here on South Street, and Barney was amazing. He just he had a care for me like my older brother did.
Wow.
He was older than me. He was quite smart. He he was raised around here, and he often tells of very humble beginnings. But he's a very brilliant man, and Barney helped me a lot. He um he kept me on the straight and narrow. You know,
collaboration again comes up.
Right.
He helped you, right?
yeah, he would make sure that I didn't make monk decisions.
There you go. He got to be practical.
Right.
Yeah, he got to be
Yeah,
practical.
yeah, he did.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs up and coming, they think they can do. They're like lone warriors.
Bootstrap
You know,
it.
They can bootstrap it. Lone warriors. They can do everything by themselves, and they don't need no one else. But it seems like what you're saying is a big key to your
You do.
success has been collaborating with others.
You do.
Yeah.
You know, you either train them. I mean, there's so many things about business. If you use your family, you run the risk of breaking relationships that can become so damaged. That's not my problem. Yes, because I'm a monk. But I saw that in business, that if you use your family, it can be good. You have somebody you trust, but it also is like a razor's edge. You can sever relationships due to the business
Right.
that just cannot heal. I think that if you organize things professionally, make sure that your vision is practical. Put someone in front of you who's going to challenge your vision. You want people who are really going to put your nose to the stone. How is this going to happen? What's your time frame before you begin to break even? You need association that's very business savvy and strong. You have to depend on other people, because to do it by yourself is it's not going to work. It's so short-lived, you know.
Speaking of vision, can you tell us what your vision is for where this business is going, or this nonprofit is going?
I see it going to another location either in 4 months or in a year and a half. This is a very strange conversation because I'm in the middle of something, which if plan A doesn't work, then plan B will let it manifest sooner, which would mean in 4 months we'd have another location. And that location is a different manifestation of what's happened to me through the years. That location will be the wellness of us, or the wellness of you. And that wellness center will have all the things that you need to put your body and mind together. To have someone speak with you, and then at a certain point you'll see a counselor. And the counselor helps you come to a decision how far you want to take your wellness. Are you trying to lose some weight or just get a little tighter? Are you trying to get into a yoga mentality where you get up, your body's good, your breathing's good, your mind is now clear? And the mind is the most difficult, because even if your body's together, if your mind is not good, then you're not well.
Right.
Chanchalam Himana Krishna. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. And sometimes to subdue that is more difficult than controlling the wind.
Definitely.
So it depends on the level of wellness a person is looking for. So that beginning phase is there. And then for those who want to go to the platform of awakening, then the first stage of awakening is that this is yours, this body. But inside this body, there's a mind and intelligence. And there's a false conception of self. We have an ego, but the false ego makes me think that I'm the controller, I'm the doer, that I'm in charge. But we know that we can't stop going to the bathroom. We can't. How much are we in charge? So the Gita gives a whole different perspective of how much is the influences of material nature, and how much our previous karma brings into the picture. But aside from that, who is observing all these different things? That's me. I'm observing. The moment that I'm no longer in this body, you say that the body's dead. You say I'm dead. But the body's dead because the body requires the life force to activate it. Once the soul is out of the body's consciousness is gone, but that soul is me. So my wellness center will explain that this is your body, and you have a mind, and you have intelligence, which is your discriminatory factor. But you are separate. This is material. You're spiritual. You're of the same nature as the Supreme. Just that you're tiny, and the Supreme is everything. So that awakening, that first stage of I'm not my body, I'm the life force within, that's the first stage of awakening. And then the next awakening is a methodology, a practical that bring us to understanding our relationship with the Supreme.
So how many people assemble here downstairs in this location for prayer or for worship?
I don't know. Sometimes we cram 40 or 50 in here.
Wow.
We need a bigger space too. But it used to be more crowded before COVID.
On what days can people meet here for worship? What are your
Fridays, they come here Fridays from 6:30 to like 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Wednesdays, I do an in-house program from 6 to 7. And I'm back to doing the Bhagavad Gita study, which was originally on Zoom. Mondays and Saturdays, I'm still on Zoom.
Okay.
But and then I'm doing something. I'm always doing something on the holy name, which is I'm going to start seminars again on the name of Krishna and why we chant Hare Krishna, the effect of the process of chanting, and to reawaken our relationship with God.
And if someone wants to attend, how do they? If someone wants to come and attend one of your teachings here, how do they do that? Do they call the number on your website online, or do they simply show up here and knock on the front door?
Yeah, they call. They can just come.
Okay, just come. Okay.
The on the programs that are on Zoom, and the younger guys are now really putting me together.
They're helping you out with the technology.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am so backwards. They have to put the television up. Now they showed me. Now they know how to use the television, like the computer and everything like that. But I really have no skill set for this.
Right.
But yeah. But they tell me I'm getting better.
That's awesome. Yeah. More collaboration, as you're talking about. It's always working with the other people and always having more people help you.
Yes. Everybody has a story to tell, and everyone has something to offer. And so when I try to find a way to articulate the process which is to be followed, and to find out what works for you. I can't change the process, But I can help you decide what level you like to come in on, or if you don't want to come in on it, what you can take away. In other words, you don't change. That's what I like about being around so long. I don't change the tenets of bhakti. I have to take it at my own pace. People take it at their own pace.
Right.
And you may come and it just may not be your time. So it's okay. But you may have a friend, somebody that you like there. And so you can call that one person, communicate. Something may happen in your life that 2 years later, you may need to really open up. And because you have that friendship, that relationship, it makes all the difference.
Right.
I don't look to recruit people. I joined this because, and I told you about me having fun. There was a line in the scriptures, one of the songs that Kevala Ananda Kanda, that the whole process of spiritual life is simply joyful. So you should have a good time.
Right.
But the good time, it doesn't mean that you bring in acts of degradation. It means that the awakening happens to such an extent that you're enjoying what you're doing. That that it's working for you. That you're becoming enlightened and enlivened. Yeah.
So you don't actively do outreach to recruit people. You kind of like to attract people to your.
Yeah.
You like
Yeah.
to attract people to your practice rather than actively recruiting them.
Yeah.
Okay.
The army can recruit. I don't know. Because the old cliche, a man convinced against his will remains of the same mentality still. So if you recruit someone, you recruited them, you enlist them in your situation, but you didn't awaken them, you didn't inspire them. A person comes because I came because I was looking for something, and it worked. I kept thinking, no, that's too strict. I'm not that guy. I'm not that person. But it worked for me. Other than that, we're not sitting here today. I'm not sharing this story with you if it didn't work for me.
That's right. So I like that you touched on inspiration, because that's exactly what we're trying to do here with this platform, Merchant Outlook. We're looking to provide inspiration for other people, upcoming business people, upcoming, want to be entrepreneurs. We want to give them inspiration. Sort of like you said earlier, in the world, it's a lot of noise, partying, clubs, girls, boys, men, women, drugs. It's so much to get caught in, to get caught up in.
Yeah.
We kind of want to give the world some inspiration and kind of help ground people and give them purpose, or help them focus on their purpose, help give them some clarity so they can better see their path ahead. So we're hoping that this conversation today will provide some of that, some clarity, and ground some people and give them a greater sense of purpose.
Your articulation is wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I have two questions for you. They're kind of philosophical.
What's the first one?
The first one is, in your journey as a spiritual teacher and as a business owner, what has been your highest peak? Like your most enjoyable moment where you felt like everything was just fabulous?
I think it doesn't make any sense. I think the highest peak for me is when I realized that negativity, disappointment, heartbreak, all the things we run away from, they're there to help us too. We just have to be properly situated that we can hear and see. And if we're able to do so, what we encounter at that stage is unimaginable. In other words, for me, I have to grow. You can't give me money and make that a high point for me. The real high time for me was when negative things happened.
Hmm.
And I became introspective. And then the qualities that I felt as though I didn't have, that I saw them manifest in different proportions. And the inner light that I found from adversity has to be the highest point for me.
Conversely, we like to know, what was your lowest valley?
Lowest. That's hard because when things don't work out, even in the early days here, when I was brought to this place, and I was brought to this place as a young monk. It was the first time that I was endeavoring to do something on my own. And I had no money, no manpower. And I was given this place to turn around. And then one young student came with me. He wanted to come with me. And the head director, he told me, he says, well, Hari, I want you to come back and save this place. He said, I can't give you any manpower or money. I can give you my blessings. I said, I'll take that. And so I was here. When I came from Boston and I opened the door, roaches and things came off the doorknob. Remember, it had been a men's homeless shelter. It was closed. So I said, okay, just close it. Let's just drive back to Boston. And the young man said, we drove 6 hours. Aren't you going to look at it? You know? I said, well, I don't want to be here. He said, well, let's look at it. And we looked at the place. And I said, the space is fine, you know? And I said, it's stable. And I critiqued what I thought of the place. And then he says, okay. He said, me and your brother can fix this place. He said, we can fix everything. And he didn't like Boston. He thought Boston was too snooty. He said, if you send me back there, I'm gonna run away. You know? But I remember being at a point here. We had no money, nothing. And I was in prayer. And I said, I said, my dear Lord Krishna, I do not know why you brought me to such a hellish place. I guess you have some plan in mind. I said, but if that is your plan, break me down, but please don't let me leave. Because I thought if I left, I would never come back to this lifestyle again. And this was very early on. Just the challenges of not being in control of my life, not having finances, you know, having to get the roaches out, having to get mice out of the place, being in a place that wasn't organized. It was so shattering to me. But something rose up in me. And instead of complaining, what came up was Vandanam, prayer, asking God to please not let me leave. And guess what? Maybe 1 week or several days after that, I was offered the old place that I had, the old restaurant that I had. I was offered that place, had my own apartment with parquet floors and leaded glass windows.
Wow.
And I needed nothing. And I was able to start everything over and to do everything. But had I not had that moment,
right?
You know, so yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. As far as your legacy goes, what are you hoping to establish, and what is it that you hope to leave behind as a result of all of your life's work and everything that you're doing?
I hope to leave a clear understanding that whatever I achieved was done by the grace of my spiritual teacher and God. From the Bhakti Garden, Brahmanya Brahmate Kon Bhagjavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. That when a person is fortunate, when a person wants the association of the Supreme Lord, when he's fortunate, then the Lord sends his representative. And the representative plants the seed of devotion within your heart to help you get God.